The Empire had seen many wars. They had fought species with energy weapons that could tear apart planets. They had battled civilizations with technology so advanced that their warships could vanish and reappear anywhere in seconds. But they had never seen anything like what humanity was doing. Commander Hal stood in the observation chamber of the warship. His skin was gray and hard like stone. His eyes were large and black and looked at everything at the same time. He watched the human vessels move slowly through space like fish swimming in water. The humans did not move fast. They did not move with purpose. They moved like they did not know what they were doing. "What are they loading?" Hal asked his science officer. The officer, named Ron, looked at the scanning device in front of him. The numbers on the screen meant nothing. He ran the scan again, then he ran it a third time. "Commander, the scans show metal containers. The containers are sealed. Inside each container are biological materials. The biological materials appear to be alive." Hal made a sound that meant he was thinking hard. Biological materials. They plan to attack the most advanced military force in this sector with bacteria, with living things we cannot even name. "Yes, Commander, that is what the scans show." Hal turned away from the screen. His face showed no emotion, did not show emotions easily. They kept their feelings locked inside their minds. They believed this made them strong. They believed this made them think better. "How long until their vessels reach the defense line?" Hal asked. 14 hours and 32 minutes, Commander." "Alert all ships. Tell them to prepare standard defensive protocols. Tell them the humans are sending us a message of war using primitive biological weapons. This will be a quick victory." Hal left the observation chamber. He did not think about the human vessels again. He did not think about what the biological materials could do. He did not think about why a species would use such a stupid weapon when they had any other choice. But one human on the lead human vessel was thinking very hard about something else entirely. Commander Price sat in the command center of the human battleship. His name was simple because human names were simple. His face was brown and lined with worry. His hands were strong, but his fingers were thin from holding computer keys and writing reports. Price had led 500 soldiers into space. He had led their families into space. He had left Earth 4 years ago because Earth was dying. They had come to Earth when the humans still lived in small cities and drove machines with wheels. They had looked at Earth and decided they wanted the planet for themselves. Most of Earth's people had run. They had taken their ships and fled into the darkness of space. Price was one of the people who had run, but he had not run far. "Open a communication channel," Price said. His voice was calm and steady even though fear was living in his chest like an animal. "Channel open, Commander," the communication officer said. Price looked at the young woman who worked the communication machine. Her name was Lisa. She had a child at home. The child was 7 years old. Price had taken the child to the Space Gardens 3 weeks ago. "This is Commander Price of the human fleet," he said into the communication machine. "I am speaking to the Empire. Hear me now. We are attacking your position in 12 hours. There will be weapons used that you have not seen before. We are telling you this because we want your people to survive. Send all civilians away from this location. Send all children away. Send all the ones who do not fight away from here." Price stopped talking. He waited for them to respond. The wait was long, the silence was heavy. When the response came, it was cold and hard. "Why would you warn us? You are an enemy. You should want us to die." Price thought about his answer. He thought about Earth and the green forests that were now burning. He thought about his sister who had died when they came to her city. He thought about the child whose father had been killed by weapons. He thought about all the pain and all the loss. "Because," Price said slowly, "we are not animals. We are not monsters. You came to our world and you tried to take it. You killed our people. But killing children does not make our world come back. Killing families does not make our dead families alive again. We will fight you. We will defeat you if we can, but we will not become like you. We will not throw away our humanity just to win a war." The commander did not respond for a long time. "You are illogical," the finally said. "You have weapons and you tell us about them. You warn us before you attack. This makes no sense." "It makes sense," Price said. "If we lose ourselves while fighting you, then you have already won. You have already taken something from us that matters more than land or ships or weapons. So we tell you this. We are coming. But we do not come as killers of children. We come as beings who believe in something bigger than ourselves." Price turned away from the communication device. He looked at Lisa. Her eyes were wet with tears. "Begin the approach pattern," Price said. "Maintain steady speed. And Lisa, make sure every civilian installation in the target zone has received the warning. Make sure they have time to run. Make sure they have time to escape." "Yes, Commander," Lisa said. Across the space between the ships, in the cold darkness where nothing lived without help, the human vessels moved closer and closer to the defensive line. Every hour that passed made the commanders more confident. The human ships were slow. The human weapon systems were weak. The human tactical formations showed no skill and no understanding of real warfare. Then the humans opened fire. The weapons came from the containers that had confused the scientists. They came in waves. They spread through space like dark clouds. They looked almost like weapons that other species had used. They looked almost like they had a pattern. Then they touched the ships. The first captain to experience the attack sent an immediate message to Hal. "We are under biological attack. The organisms are eating our hull materials. We cannot stop them. We cannot." The message stopped. The captain never finished his sentence because the organisms had already broken through to the inside of the ship. They had already eaten through the walls and the structures. The ship began to break apart like ice melting in warm water. Hal watched the scans as more ships reported the same problem. The organisms were not weapons designed to kill. They were organisms designed to break down the metals and materials that they used. They had discovered metals that no other species in the galaxy used. These metals made their ships strong and their weapons deadly. But these metals had never been exposed to these organisms before, because these organisms had been designed by human scientists who spent months studying materials, who spent months asking a captured engineer questions about what metals he used, who spent months creating bacteria and small creatures that ate and broke down these metals. The shields did not work because shields worked on energy. The weapons did not work because weapons could not destroy something so small and so many. The pilots tried to run, but the organisms had already spread too far and too wide. "This is impossible," Ron said, looking at the scans. "We are the most advanced military force in this sector. We have weapons that can level mountains. We have shields that can stop light itself. And we are losing ships to bacteria." Hal did not respond. He was thinking. He was thinking about Price's words. He was thinking about mercy and warning and humanity. He was thinking about why a species would tell an enemy about an attack before it happened. Then he understood. Price had told them about the attack because he knew they would not believe him. The humans knew that the mind worked in straight lines, the thought in patterns. They did not expect an enemy to fight in ways that did not make sense. They expected weapons that followed rules. They expected attacks that followed patterns. They did not expect an enemy to use living things that followed no patterns, that grew and changed and adapted on their own. "All ships begin emergency retreat pattern," Hal ordered. "Move to position Gamma 7, now." The ships moved with speed. They left behind the dying ships, the ships that had already been broken by the organisms. They left behind thousands of their soldiers and their commanders and their people. They ran like animals running from fire. On the human command ship, Price watched the retreat. He did not celebrate. He did not dance or shout or show happiness. He only looked tired. "How many of our ships did we lose?" he asked. 12 ships, Commander, 234 people dead. Another 300 wounded," the weapons officer said. Price closed his eyes. He thought about each name. He thought about Lisa's brother who had died in the attack. He thought about the families who would receive messages saying that their people would not come home. "Send aid to the nearest colony," Price said. "Send medical ships, send food, send everything we have, then send the message to the commander again. Tell him we do not want to keep fighting. Tell him we want to talk." "Commander, they just attacked the Second Fleet. They will be here in hours," Lisa said. "Then we send the message now, before they attack again, before more people die. We tell them that we know they are smart. We tell them that we know they can create new defenses. We tell them that they can study the organisms and find ways to destroy them. We tell them that this war does not need to continue." Price stood and looked out at the space around him. The black emptiness stretched in all directions. In that emptiness were millions of humans, and in that emptiness was pain and fear and hope. "They will not believe we want peace," Ron said when he heard Price's message transmitted to command. "They will think this is a trick." "Then we will have to make them understand," Hal said. We will have to show them that logic and mercy are not enemies. We will have to show them that they are both right. But Hal did not know if this was possible. He did not know if the mind could bend that far the second human fleet was already preparing for the attack. They had studied the weapons. They had taken pieces of the organisms and broken them apart in their laboratories. They understood now what the humans had done. The humans had taken simple biology and made it into a weapon that followed no rules. But they were not finished. They adapted. Within days, they sent out new defenses, new shields that did not use energy, new armor that the organisms could not eat, new weapons designed to destroy the particles and the bacteria before they could spread. The second human fleet attacked. The weapons still worked, but they did not work as well. They had learned, they had changed, they had adapted. Price watched the reports come in. The humans had won the second battle, but they had lost more ships. They had lost more people. The cost of winning was becoming higher and higher. He made a decision that would change everything. Lisa, he said, I am going to the position. I am going to speak to their commander face to face. Lisa stood up from her station. That is suicide, Commander. They will kill you the moment you arrive. Maybe, Price said, but maybe they will not. Maybe they are beginning to think like we think. Maybe they are beginning to understand that there is another way. Price took a small ship. He had 2 guards with him. Both guards were scared. Both guards believed they were going to die. They arrived at the position, and they did not die. Hal received them with formal ceremony. He prepared a room that had air that humans could breathe. He prepared seating that humans could use. He treated Price like an equal, not like an enemy. You are brave to come here, Hal said. I am desperate, Price said. My people are dying, your people are dying. We are destroying each other, and for what? For a piece of land that neither of us can live on anymore. Hal listened. He listened for a long time without speaking. The Empire does not negotiate. The Empire does not compromise. The Empire conquers, Hal finally said. Then the Empire will keep dying, Price said. Because I have something you do not have. I have people who will follow me into darkness. I have soldiers who will use weapons no one has ever imagined before. I have scientists who will create new organisms every day if they have to. I have mothers who will fight to protect their children. And yet you are here, Hal said, alone in my ship offering peace. Yes, Price said, because I believe that you are also willing to offer peace. I believe that a commander who is smart enough to adapt quickly is also smart enough to see that peace is better than war. Hal stood. He looked down at Price. That was very tall, that was very strong, that could kill Price with one hand. Come with me, Hal said. He led Price through the corridors of the ship. He took him to a room where they were working on the organisms. They had killed some of the organisms. They had studied others. They had learned how to defend against them. This is what humans can do, Hal said. You can create life that we cannot control. You can create weapons from dirt and water and things that are not even alive. You are dangerous in ways we did not think were possible. Yes, Price said. The Empire wants your planet, Hal said. The Empire needs resources that your world has. Then we will trade with you, Price said. We will give you what you need, and you will give us what we need. We will both become stronger, together, not against each other. Hal did not respond for a long time. He was thinking. He was trying to fit this new idea into his ordered mind. He was trying to understand something that did not follow his rules. I will speak to the council, Hal finally said. I will tell them about your offer, but I cannot promise they will listen. I cannot promise they will agree. I know, Price said, but you will try, and that is enough. Price left the ship with his guards. As they flew back to the human vessels, Lisa watched the scans. She held her breath. She believed that the commander was dead. But then she saw him. The council members were old and powerful. They had ruled the Empire for longer than some human civilizations had existed. They believed that mercy was weakness. They believed that negotiation was failure. They believed that the only path forward was victory. But one member of the council was different, and was young and had only lived for 50 years. Most lived for 300 years. To the council and was a child. To the military and was an officer who had already shown great ability. And had been on the ships when the organisms had broken through the hulls, and had seen soldiers scream as the metal walls collapsed around them, and had seen death in a way that the council had never seen death. and had also been captured by humans. The human forces had taken him prisoner after a small battle. The humans had put Anne in a medical facility, not a prison, a medical facility, and had been wounded, and the humans had healed the wound. The woman who had healed Anne was named. She was a human doctor. She was older, and her hands were steady and kind. Every day had come to check on Anne's wound. Every day she had made sure that Anne had food and water and shelter. Every day she had treated a prisoner like a living being instead of like an object. One day Anne had asked why. "Why do you care for an enemy?" Anne had asked. Had looked at him with eyes that showed sadness and strength at the same time. "Because you are alive," had said. "Because taking care of another being is what makes us more than just animals fighting for food. Because if I can see you as a being that is worth helping, maybe you can see us the same way." Those words had changed something inside Anne. When the council met to discuss Price's offer, Anne stood and spoke. "The humans are offering peace," Anne said. "The humans are telling us that we can trade instead of fighting. The humans are saying that we can both grow stronger if we work together." The council leader looked down at Anne. "And you believe this?" the council leader asked. "Yes," Anne said. "I have been among the humans. I have seen how they treat their enemies. They gave me medicine. They gave me food. They treated me with respect even though I had come to their world to take it." "The humans are weak," another council member said. "Weakness is not a reason to trust." "But what if it is not weakness?" Anne asked. "What if it is strength? What if it is harder to show mercy to an enemy than it is to show force? What if the humans are stronger than we are in ways we have never measured?" The council fell silent. Then something happened that shocked everyone in the chamber. Hal, who was not on the council but who was allowed to speak to them, stepped forward. "Anne is correct," Hal said. "I have spoken with Price. I have looked into his eyes. This human is not a liar. This human is not a coward. This human has the strength to look at his enemy and see something more than something to destroy." "You are proposing we let these creatures take what is theirs?" the council leader asked. "No," Hal said. "I am proposing that we let these creatures keep what is theirs, and that we work together to take new things, to build new things, to become something greater than we are now." For the first time in 100 years, the council voted on something other than conquest. The vote was close, but it passed. The Empire would open negotiations with the humans. Price received the message through secret channels. He wept when he read it, not from joy, but from relief, from the knowledge that his people would live, that the children who had been born on human ships would see a world that was not always at war. He sent a message back through the same channels. "We will talk tomorrow. I will bring Gregory Cole, our chief scientist. We will sit across from you, and we will find a way forward together." That night, Price stood alone in his quarters. He looked out at the stars. He thought about Earth. He thought about his sister. He thought about everyone who had died to bring them to this moment. He thought about a young named and who had chosen to speak the truth even when it was dangerous. He thought about a doctor named who had treated an enemy like a being worth saving. The table where they sat was made of neutral material. It was not metal. It was not human steel. It was something both species had chosen together. It was a symbol of what was to come. Price sat on one side. Hal sat on the other side. Between them sat Gregory Cole, who had spent 30 years studying how things grew and changed. Across from Gregory sat a scientist named who had spent the same amount of time studying the same things. "We need agreements," Price said. "We need laws that both of us will follow." "Agreed," Hal said. "The human biological weapons will not be used against the Empire again." "And they will not attempt to take human colonies or human worlds," Price said. "There is more," Hal said. "The Empire will provide resources to help rebuild human colonies. In exchange, the humans will provide the biological knowledge that created the organisms." Price nodded. This was expected. This was fair. "But not for weapons," Gregory Cole said. "We will share the knowledge, but only for peaceful uses, for growing crops, for healing diseases, for building, not for destroying." Looked at Hal. Something passed between them that was not words, but was still a kind of language. "Agreed," said. "Though we'll also commit to this. We will take this knowledge and we will use it for growth." As they talked, something happened that no one had predicted. The conversation became not about what separated them, but about what they both wanted. They both wanted to survive. They both wanted their people to live. They both wanted to build something that would last longer than one lifetime. Within 6 hours, the basic agreement was finished. The Empire and the human colonies would establish trade. They would establish communication lines. They would establish a shared research program to study the biological organisms and how they could be used for peaceful purposes. Most importantly, they would establish mutual defense. If any other species attacked one of them, the other would come to help. The war ended not with victory or defeat, but with a choice to be something other than enemies. The years that followed changed both species. Humans began to understand logic and order, began to understand human creativity and emotion. The two species were not the same. They would never be the same, but they learned to value what was different about each other. Gregory Cole and became friends. They worked together in laboratories, studying the organisms that had started a war and ended a war. They created new medicines from the biological knowledge. They created new ways to heal old injuries. The doctor taught physicians about compassion and taught human military officers about discipline and clear thinking. Price became the leader of a new kind of government, not human, but both. He and Hal met every month to discuss trade and defense and how to keep the peace that they had fought so hard to create. 20 years after the war ended, a new city was built on a moon that belonged to neither species. It was called the City of Two Worlds. Humans and lived there together. They raised their children together. They worked together. They dreamed together. A human child named David was born to two human parents. A child named Ren was born to two parents. David and Ren met when they were both 5 years old. They did not know any world where their species had been enemies. They only knew a world where they were friends. They played together in parks that had both plants and human plants. They learned in schools where both species taught. They grew up believing that difference was not something to fear. When they were older, David asked Ren about the war, about the biological weapons, about how close the two species had come to destroying each other. Ren thought about this for a long time. "My parents told me that your kind used the weapon anyone had ever seen," Ren said. "They said it worked not because it was advanced, but because it was unexpected, because you thought in ways we could not predict." "Does that make us better?" David asked. "No," Ren said. "It makes us different, and I think that is better than being superior. I think being different is better than being the same." David and Ren continued their walk through the city. Around them, humans and worked and lived and dreamed. The war was over. The walls had come down. The future was open. And in a laboratory on the other side of the moon, Gregory Cole and were still working, still studying, still learning from each other. The organisms that had once been weapons were now tools of healing. They grew and changed in laboratories. They adapted to new purposes. They proved that even the things created for destruction could become the foundation for creation. Price died 80 years after the peace began. When he died, the entire empire mourned. When Hal died a year later, the human colonies mourned. They had given each other more than peace. They had given each other the gift of understanding that the enemy you learn to see as human becomes your most important teacher. The war had ended because two leaders chose something other than victory. They chose survival. They chose to see the being across from them as worthy of respect. And in that choice, they had built something that neither species could have built alone. They had built a future where difference was not a reason to fight, but a reason to learn, a reason to grow, a reason to become something greater than before. The weapon in the galaxy had not won a war. It had started a peace. And that peace would echo through the generations, reminding every human and every that the most powerful force in any universe is not the strength to destroy, but the choice to build something better together. He thought about all the people on both sides who had chosen something other than death. And he was grateful. The human shuttle was returning. The commander was alive. And everything was about to change. He did not know if any mind could hold two different truths at the same time. He was about to find out. The commander, Hal, listened to Price's words. He did not understand them. The words made no sense in his ordered, logical mind. Mercy was not an advantage. Compassion did not win wars. Caring about the lives of enemies was a failure of thinking. And yet the humans were coming with their stupid weapons and their strange morality. They were coming with bacteria in containers. They were coming with a warning and a choice. Hal gave orders to move all non-combat personnel away from the position. He did this not because he understood Price's words. He did this because he was a military commander and he protected his people when he could. But he still believed the humans would lose. He still believed they would win. He still believed that logic and order and advanced technology would defeat unpredictability and mercy and emotion. He was wrong about many things, but he did not know that yet.